The Undertaker is one character that has remained in character for his entire career. He's always believed that his gimmick would have never worked if he ended up doing TV shows and interviews. But ever since he hung up his boots, the Deadman has blessed us with some insane stories from his iconic career. And while some of them are beyond hilarious, others are completely shocking. So let's take a look at them. Let's start with the fact that the Undertaker has always been one of Vince's prized performers. There have only been a handful of people that have been able to secure the boss's trust, making it one of the many reasons why the Undertaker was booked so strongly throughout his entire career. However, things could have gone differently whilst working in WCW, because before debuting in WWE, the Undertaker realized while working for their rivals that he was never going to make it big. The people in charge never saw the Deadman as someone who could be one of the top guys within the company, and the Undertaker knew that he had to reach out to WWE in order to make a name for himself. While speaking to Joe Rogan, he revealed that WCW told him point blank that nobody was ever going to pay to watch him perform, which resulted in an insane story of Vince inviting the Undertaker for a meeting.
Went to another company, WCW, where I was Mean Mark Callis. And right there, check that young stud out right there. So I go there, and I was there about 8 or 9 months, and my contract was coming up, and I go in to renegotiate my contract, and they were like, look, you're a great athlete, kid, but no one's ever going to pay money to watch you wrestle.
But this is where things get even more interesting. During his WWE meeting, Vince asked if The Undertaker had any hidden talents. The Deadman went on to say that he was pretty good at singing in the shower, something he instantly regretted considering the status of WWE at the time was all about gimmicks.
Finally, I did, and he calls me. I got to go to his house, right? So I go to his house.
What is Vince's house like?
You kidding? It's nice. I have the meeting. Meeting goes for about an hour and a half. And so we're sitting in his living room, and he goes, well, Mark, you have any hidden talents, other than, wrestling? Do you do anything? And I'm trying to be funny and not nervous. And, I sing in the shower pretty good. And as soon as I said it, right, I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have said that.
It was at this moment that he knew. He up.
So Vince told the Deadman that the company didn't have anything for him yet, and the Undertaker thought he had messed up badly. Thankfully, he was given a second look thanks to Bruce Pritchard and a few others. But can you just imagine had they run with the idea? We would have never have gotten the streak, and we definitely wouldn't have gotten the next story. It's a known fact that Andre the Giant is one of the biggest attractions during the golden age of wrestling. He might not have been the greatest in-ring performer, but that specific time wasn't meant to showcase that kind of wrestling that we see today. And while Andre achieved great heights and propelled WWE to stardom alongside Hulk Hogan, it meant that during his tenure he came across several different opponents, but one that always eluded him was The Undertaker. In an interview, it was revealed that Taker had met with Andre several times and went on to say that the Giant wasn't shy in saying that he did not like facing bigger opponents, but he admired The Undertaker. He would also go on to mention that Andre wanted to have a program with Taker and had an idea. The Deadman asked Andre several times, but the Giant never revealed it to him.
But it's funny. Andre told me early on, he was like, kid, one day, me and you. He had an idea.
That's right, boss.
He had an idea. He had an angle that he wanted to do with me. Andre didn't like big guys.
Yeah.
He loved me.
Yeah.
For the little amount of time that we did get to spend together, he loved me and he wanted to do business with me. It was just his health was already at a point where we couldn't do it. This is how old school Andre was, though.
Yeah.
Like, every day I would come to the dressing room, he would be sitting there obviously playing cribbage or gin or whatever, and I'd say, how you doing, boss? It'd be good. And I said, hey, what's that idea? What? And he never would tell me.
Wow.
He took it to the grave with him.
Did he really?
He didn't tell Tim. He didn't tell Tim White. He didn't tell anybody.
As stated, Andre passed away before revealing his idea. I guess one can only imagine, but one thing for certain that would have never happened in a feud between them is seeing The Undertaker do a spinneroonie or even break character.
Genesis of the people's elbow was The Rock creating this ridiculous move to try to get you to break. Do you remember that?
I do. You know what? There was such a time period there where I think that was the company's goal was to see who could get me to break. I mean, it was nonstop. We spent an hour and a half one night, them trying to get me to do the spinneroonie. Oh, I was pissed. And here they come, one after another. Rock comes down. Triple H comes down.
12 damn years of dead man walking. I want to see one damn night of dead man spinning.
Everybody's down and doing these absolutely awful spinneroonies. And I remember seeing my spot to leave because the ring is full of people now, right? And I jumped out of the ring and I headed back to the back. Vince never forgive me because I always told him, I said, I don't care who you are, what you do. You'll never get me to do that.
In his 30 plus years, The Undertaker did everything he could not to break characters, but that didn't stop his peers from trying. And while Vince failed to get him to dance, it wouldn't be the only time they tried, as his fellow pro wrestlers will go the extra mile in trying to get the Deadman to loosen up for once. And as he said, there was a bet going on between superstars backstage on who would get The Undertaker to break character and smile on TV. The closest that anyone has gotten is none other than Stone Cold himself in a backstage segment during the Alliance storyline. And while Vince was giving a pep talk to the team, we can see Austin mimicking McMahon to troll The Undertaker. And it seemed as though he was getting close to getting him to break character, but then Taker quickly told him to shut up and then proceeded to cover his face from the camera as he could be seen smiling.
Jericho, Kane, Undertaker. We do have a deal.
We got a deal.
And Stone Cold.
Shut up. Like
It doesn't matter.
It don't matter.
Going into invasion.
Invasion.
We're breathing down our necks.
Breathing down our necks. They're breathing it.
To support each other.
Support each other.
It's 5 on 5.
5 on 5.
Why did we stand?
And while he stayed true to his character, it's fair to say it was difficult, considering what fans see on TV is what they expect the superstar to be like in real life. And it seems like an unexpected fan saw this firsthand when coming face to face with their idol, as some wrestlers hate it when fans disturb them at the airport. Nevertheless, The Undertaker has a hilarious story when speaking to Mike Tyson regarding the Ultimate Warrior. Taker went on to say there was a time when the Ultimate Warrior began showcasing the word warrior on his clothes. Almost looked like the Ultimate Warrior was a walking advertisement. The Undertaker went on to share that a little kid once approached the Ultimate Warrior at an airport for an autograph, and the superstar told the kid to leave him the alone.
Warrior down this, warrior across the back. I mean, he was just like a walking billboard for himself. So you're sitting in an airport at 6 a.m. Well, you're grumpy, everybody's tired. But then when you have it written all over your body as well, right? You know, like me, I've got my hat pulled down, my sunglasses on, I'm in a corner somewhere just I'm trying to blend in. But here he's like a beacon of light that just says, yes, I'm the warrior. And I remember, I'll never forget this little kid coming up to him. He's like, Mr. Warrior, can I have your autograph? And he just goes completely and he was like, leave me the f alone. You know, and I'm like, holy, you know, this little kid's like terrified, right? And then the mom comes and gets the kid. I go over and I'm like, Jim, you can't do that. Go fuck that little bastard, you know. I'm like, you're a walking advertisement to say, come fuck with me, you know, come. To his credit, he chilled out later on. But I mean, he was a little high strung back then. And
however, The Undertaker in more recent interviews has also shared his experiences in the ring, and not all of them have been kind to the Deadman. For one, within his first year in the company, The Undertaker was given the privilege of facing the Golden Goose in WWE, that being none other than Hulk Hogan. He was set to win the title from him and become the youngest ever champion at the time. However, just prior to the match, Hogan came up to Taker and showcased concerns about taking the Tombstone finisher, and The Undertaker, being the professional that he is, told him not to worry as he will handle him with great care. It was only once they got into the ring that he finally saw the type of character Hulk Hogan really was.
1991, my 1-year anniversary with the company, I wrestled none other than the Golden Goose himself. I'm going to win the championship. That would have made me the youngest champion in WWF at the time in history. I'm walking down the hall. He goes, hey, brother, I'm really nervous about taking the Tombstone. I said, I'll take great care of you. Your head will never touch. Match goes the way it goes. Now it's time for the finish. Boom. As soon as my knees touch, oh, brother, you got me. And then all of a sudden I hear Hogan go, somebody get my wife and kids on the phone. They take him off to the hospital. Oh, I had crippled the Golden Goose. I'm done. It took a few days before I actually got to see the footage. My head never touched. Now there's this Tuesday in Texas pay-per-view. I'm thinking, oh man, this is going to be my punishment. They're going to take the title away from me. Terry shows up and I was like, I watched the footage back. Your head never hit. But you had me so tight that when I came down, like I didn't have any room to move. It wrenched my neck. It let me know everything that I needed to know about who he was as a person.
And while fans can make their assumption, you have to understand Hogan's perspective. Considering when The Undertaker faced Koko early on in his career, it was the finisher that drew a lot of concerns as being unsafe. As The Undertaker recalls the story upon the altercation he had with Koko backstage after the performers were done in the ring.
Backstage, Koko is like, he gets me in the hallway and man, he's just giving me the riot act. Like, man, somebody gives you your body, you got to be able to protect them, man. You hurt my neck. And I'm like, Koko, man, like, hey, if I hurt you, man, I'm sorry. I really pride myself on, being safe and taking care of the guys that I'm working with. I said, I apologize. And he just, he kept going. He was pissed. He kept going. Koko, I was like, I've apologized to you as much as I know how to do. I said, if you're not going to accept that, like, maybe we need to go out. But he was like, no, man, you just need to learn to be more careful. And that was it. And me and Koko were fine. We've been fine ever since.
And while he managed to recover from his early mishaps in his career, it meant that the audience would see his character develop even more throughout the years. It's fair to say, if you've been in the business as long as he has, your character will certainly go through some changes. So even though he's iconic now, The Undertaker himself knows that his character would have never worked during the Attitude Era. He truly believed he would not fit in, as the content at the time was way more edgier, and having an undead gravedigger gimmick just didn't make any sense.
I don't think in that time period, as cool as that Undertaker character is or was, I think it would have really struggled in the Attitude Era, because you're kind of handcuffed in what you can do, right? You've got all these guys cutting these these incredible promos, and everything's kind of up in the air. There's not much of you could pretty much say it during the Attitude Era, and I always felt like it was going to be really difficult for me to stay in the confines of what The Undertaker did and try and cut promos against The Rock or Stone Cold.
So moving on to the PG era, in the last decade, WWE has been desperate to put over Roman Reigns as the next face of the company. And even though they failed miserably early on, WWE was doing everything they can to make Roman look strong. One of those things was for him to become the second man to defeat The Undertaker at WrestleMania. So at WrestleMania 33, The Undertaker left his gloves, coat and hat in the center of the ring as a sign that he was officially hanging up the boot. And judging by his performance, it was clear that Taker was in no shape or form to perform at Mania that year. It's now considered to be one of the most lackluster Mania events ever. So while speaking with Chris Van Vliet, The Undertaker himself revealed that he was in no condition to perform that year, but he still proceeded with the plan as he believed Roman was the next big star, and he already made commitments with the company.
I was extremely beat up, and I had toyed with the idea of hanging it up. I knew it that year when I got to the Rumble, I wasn't going to be ready. I wasn't going to be ready for Mania, but I'd already committed. Didn't know what we were going to do yet. I just knew that I was going to work with Roman, and we got there that day, and I was like, man, I knew I was in bad shape. My right hip, which I had surgery right after that, it was the right thing to do, not knowing if I was going to be able to come back again and work anymore. So, he was coming up and he was going to be the face of the company, and it was the right thing to do. And I didn't, the streak had already been beat. So it was the right thing to do business wise, because I didn't, like I said, I didn't know that I was going to come back again. I mean, the hat and the coat, all that being placed in the ring was 100% legitimate. At the end of it, I was done.
So in several interviews, The Undertaker has made it known that he was disappointed with his performance at WrestleMania 33, and it just would have been fitting for his retirement match for the legend that is The Undertaker, which brings us to WrestleMania 34. To this day, I still think about WWE not pulling the trigger on Cena versus Taker at the right time. In my eyes, that match should have happened when The Undertaker's streak was still intact. Despite having several great opportunities, no one was believable enough to end The Undertaker's streak. Fans even thought Lesnar will end up losing to Undertaker because the build to their match was mid. The match did end up happening at WrestleMania 34, with Taker squashing Cena in less than 3 minutes. However, what happened backstage was wholesome. The Undertaker's daughter was watching from the stands, and she was a huge fan of John Cena, so when he lost, she got massively upset. So while speaking to Kevin Hart on his talk show, The Undertaker revealed that Cena had to console his daughter, and Cena, being the great guy he is, told Taker's daughter that he deserved the beating that he got from the Deadman.
So a few years back, I'm wrestling John Cena, right? Mm-hmm. And it's going to be at WrestleMania. So we're doing this thing on TV where Cena is just bad-mouthing me, right? Every week. He's trying to get me to wrestle him at Mania, and I don't want a part of it, right? My daughter loves him. My daughter loves Cena. So we, eventually we have the match, right? She's sitting front row with her mom. It was a real quick deal. I squashed him in like 5 minutes, right? I just kicked the shit out of him, dropped him on his head, pin him, and I pin him, right? And I'm looking, and I'm looking at my daughter, looking for that
that, you know, like, yay, daddy, right? And she's giving me this. And I'm like, what the hell is that, right? So they come back after I go backstage and she is just distraught. And I'm like, babe, what's wrong? And she goes, well, Dad, I'm happy you won, but I'm really sad John lost, right?
Oh my God.
So
my God.
It gets better. I said, I gotta go get John. It was really good. No, he goes, okay. I said a lot of bad things about your dad. I deserved it. I'm okay. But, you know, I did say a bunch of bad things. She was okay with it.
So while it wasn't a classic match with Cena, it was certainly a memorable one, similar to The Undertaker's classic Hell in a Cell matches in the past. From Triple H to Shawn Michaels, his Hell in a Cell matches were excellent. However, nothing comes close to what he did to Mankind, King of the Ring in 1998. The match itself is remembered for Mick taking insane bumps, from being thrown off the top of the cell onto the announce table below to getting chokeslammed through the ring. Mankind was playing with death that night, and that got The Undertaker so worried that he actually thought that Mick was gonna die while taking the second biggest bump of the match. Sharing his experience with Mike Tyson, he would go on to explain his thoughts while the match was happening.
I'd had the first Hell in a Cell match with Shawn Michaels. It was good. And Mick was afraid that we wouldn't be able to deliver as good a match as the first one.
When you threw him off, like, do you tell? Like, are y'all talking? Like, do you tell him?
When I got over to the edge, I was like, I hope he hits that table, because that concrete's going to be a little bit. Like 5 minutes later, I throw him down. He climbs back up. We continue fighting. Yeah, I've already thrown him off once.
That's amazing.
He needs to go to the hospital, right?
No, this is nasty.
Not Stone, dude.
Oh, he's out right now. I'm looking down, and honestly, in my eyes, I'm looking down at a dead guy.
Why would he?
That wasn't supposed to happen. We continue. He gets up from this. Again, he gets up, and we start fighting again. And I'm so distracted. This is kind of gross. Like, he's got something in his nostril. Come to find out, it wasn't a booger. It was his incisor.
So moving from one legend to the next. Everybody loves the icon Sting, and there's very few performers that Sting just couldn't face in the ring. The Undertaker is on the top of that list as one of the biggest dream matches that never took place. But there was a time that it had the potential to be a WrestleMania main event and could have made WWE millions of bucks. However, there was only one person against the whole idea, and that was Vince McMahon. The Undertaker revealed in an interview that Vince was just never interested in the two facing off, and to this day, nobody knows why.
Come on, man.
Why didn't you and Sting ever have a match? Man, that would have been huge box office. It just didn't work out, and Vince didn't want it. For whatever reason, I don't know what it was. He just didn't. He didn't feel it, and you know, everybody else was like, two when he got there. The match would have been good, but I don't think it would have lived up to the expectations. You know, I was way on the backside of what I was going to do when he got there.
So imagine finally having Sting in your company and not booking him to face The Undertaker. Granted, when Sting showed up in 2014, Taker was in no condition to give us a 5-star classic. But still, the image of the two in the same ring would have been a sight for the ages. But I guess going against the boss wouldn't have worked out for Taker in the long run. But judging by his relationship with Vince, one would usually think that there would be nothing that he can do to piss off the owner. However, that wasn't the case when the Deadman got his tattoos on his arm. On an episode of his 6 Feet Under podcast, The Undertaker revealed that Vince got extremely furious with Taker when he got tattoos on his arm without Vince's permission, as his gimmick was a special one, and Vince believed that The Undertaker should have always discussed about changing anything regarding his gimmick with himself. McMahon thought that Undertaker's gimmick didn't need any tattoos, but Taker got them anyway, and he would reveal that Vince cussed him out like a dog backstage.
I feel like if there was ever a character that could get away with tattoos, it would be The Undertaker's.
And that was my thought. But oh, Lord have mercy, Vince was pissed.
Yeah.
Oh, he was pissed off at me.
Yeah.
As were my parents. But
yeah, your mom, dad didn't.
No, they didn't approve.
No.
And but Vince especially was pissed.
Yeah.
Like, I show up at TV. I remember showing up, Vince seeing my arm. Oh my, he cussed me like a dog. God damn, why would you do that to yourself? You can't do that. You can't mess with the gimmick without talking to me first. I mean, he went on and on and on and on about it.
I think Undertaker knew that he was one of the few superstars that could get away with it, but it's still amazing to know that even someone like Taker couldn't get away from Vince's terrible rants. And finally, we need to mention the story upon his shocking return at WrestleMania 40. While rumors were rampant upon who will be appearing in the main event, it's certain to say that many fans were shocked to see Taker at Mania again, considering the last time we saw him was during the pandemic era where he had the boneyard match against AJ Styles. But when Triple H and Paul Heyman called him saying that they had something for him, the Deadman was 100% on board, because for him it was a perfect send-off to the fans as he finally got closure when he chokeslammed The Rock in front of 80,000 fans. If you enjoyed the video guys, make sure to subscribe for more and check out our other videos where we made the most shocking segments ever aired in WWE.